Source therapy operates with the idea that somehow, at some point, and unfortunately for some of us, maybe at a very early age, very young age, and maybe even more unfortunately, maybe for some people never, but it operates with the idea that at one point we had an authentic self. And that authentic self would be recognized by the spontaneous child, and that child being able to grow and learn and know that he or she was loved without any doubts. And so the idea of source therapy is that we have an authentic part, well, hopefully we did, and then something traumatic happens. And whatever that traumatic thing was, remembering that trauma, simple definition, is being overwhelmed. But in this case, really, when we're talking about family of origin issues, the trauma can be being raged on, screamed at as a child. Child has no defense against that, of the energy that's coming in, so they have to internalize it. We quickly learn then as a child that as a result of the trauma, it's not safe to be who we are, who we were created to be, so to speak. So we develop then an adaptive self. So we know that it wasn't safe. How do I know it wasn't safe? I just got raged on, I just got hit, I just got molested, whatever it might have been. I've now been objectified. I'm not really a person. I don't necessarily know the language to that, but I will later. I'm going to figure that out, hopefully with some good help. But at that point that we're hurt, we're traumatized, and we develop the adaptive self. So the adaptive self then becomes an issue then, and how do I stay in that adaptive self? Because again, keeping in mind, it's not safe to be who I am in this family system. I just found that out. I'm pretty smart, so, and I'm not going to keep doing what I was doing because that was pretty painful. So the results were painful. So I developed a false self, actually. So I would say, so we have adaptive self becomes over a period of time the false self. So that's again that part that it's almost like an inner world that we create that we become very clear that it's not safe to be authentic. So we develop a whole other way to operate in our family system, and then we take that with us out into the world. And then the challenge with that becomes, if with that happening, that it becomes difficult to stay in the false self because it's really not natural, because our authentic self is the natural part. So we develop a medicated self. And that could be as a child, it could be TV nowadays, in 2019, it could be video games, anything that we would use to distract ourselves from what's really going on, where we've already learned that we can't be authentic, so we have to be in a false self. And again, for the most part, if we're talking about children, this is not conscious yet, but interestingly enough, for the therapy to be effective, at some point, even if it's 20 years later, we have to allow that part to be conscious, to be aware, to feel what they didn't feel when the trauma happened. So the medicated self then, the danger with that, as we get older, becomes the addicted self. And then the addicted self is whatever you would imagine that would be. It can be drugs, sex, alcohol, food. As I said earlier, I've been looking at the last couple of years, even this idea of thought addiction. Also related to addiction would be the whole idea, foundational to addiction is the idea of obsessive compulsive. We in our minds think that we have to complete the thing that we think we need, that we actually don't need, but we think we need in order to feel okay about ourselves. So it's foundational actually to even believing that who we are is enough, or that just in and of ourselves we're okay. So that trauma that happens literally shakes our whole sense of whether we even believe that we're okay. A lot of what goes on with clinicians in terms of diagnosis is they're diagnosing symptoms. They're not getting to the source. And where that is usually significant is, if I don't know what I'm truly diagnosing, then I'm not going to be able to provide treatment that's going to be effective. So source therapy gets right to the root of what's happening and allows those changes to begin day one. And again, you can expect those changes to happen. They always do, and they never don't.